Hey everyone, welcome to this new edition of the Cartoon Flashback. You're probably wondering why I'm walking around and talking so quickly. It's because my mom's supposed to be coming home from work in a little while, so in just a little bit that is, so if I have to stop and redo this later, you'll understand why. What I'm here to talk about, as you see up there, the classic 1980s Super Mario Brothers / Legend of Zelda Super Show. That's right. Now, for some of you guys that don't know about the Super Mario Bros. Super Show / Legend of Zelda Super Show, it was created to capitalize on the success of the Mario Brothers and Legend of Zelda games that came out when Nintendo came out in the mid-80s, when the Nintendo Entertainment System came out in the mid-80s. Now, the Super Mario Bros. Super Show was unique in its own perspective. It was different due to the fact that it kind of took a page off some of those classic kid shows where you had live action people in sort of a live action setting, and then in the middle, and then after about a few minutes of that live action, you would go right to the animation. Then you'd come back to the live action, and then maybe get a preview of something else to come the following day or week. Then you'd go back to the live action, and then that would be the end. Basically, this was kind of like the Nintendo version. Well, let's just say, for an example, you want to use examples of that kind of situation: Bozo the Clown, Captain Kitty, and a few others. So, not Captain Kitty, but Captain Kangaroo. I was thinking something of a show. But anyway, that's exactly what this show is like. Now, every Monday through Thursday, like I said, you would have the live action segments, but every Monday through Thursday, the cartoon would be the Mario cartoon. And then every Friday would be a Legend of Zelda cartoon. So in other words, the Legend of Zelda was basically... The reason The Legend of Zelda was aired on Fridays was because, just like some shows later on in the 90s, like say Gargoyles and Mighty Ducks and a few others, it was targeted more, in my opinion, towards the older kids. Now, the difference between Zelda and Mario, between the cartoons was that, just like nostalgia critic Doug Walker pointed out, there was more of a consistency, more of a continuity-based atmosphere with Zelda than there was with Mario. Mario was kind of like Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Basically, you knew they were going to face off against the villain, but the exception was you didn't know where they were going to be, what land they were going to be in, and most of the time it didn't have anything to do with the previous episode or any acknowledgement of it. Now, Legend of Zelda did have some acknowledgments to some previous episodes and adventures, I believe. So that's why it was, even though some fans looked at it as a disgrace, sort of a smear, if you will, on the Zelda franchise, some still looked at it and praised it for the fact that it was more continuity based and it was more mature. Unlike Mario. Now, I'm not saying the Mario cartoon wasn't good, because it was. It was funny, and it was unique. What was cool and unique about it was the fact that not just Mario and Luigi, but Toad and Peach, or she was known in the cartoons as Toadstool, and in the earlier games as Toadstool, they would all get to have a chance, an opportunity, if you will, to inherit and gain the powers and the abilities of certain items that you would need while you were playing the game. For example, one of the items, of course, was the flower power, was the fire flower, and the Starman. On most occasions, they would use both of them. Now, the only now we all know that when the Marios used either one of these, that they would go from the green and blue outfits, the green and the blue overalls, or the red and blue overalls when it comes to Mario, or the green and blue and red and blue, outfits that they wore, to the white outfits with the green overalls in case of in Luigi's case, or the red overalls in Mario's case. But whenever Peach/Toadstool, or whenever Toad would use these, the only change about them would be their outfits. Well, the outfits would change too. Toad would go from, well, get this. Originally, when the show started out, he had a red head in the first few episodes. His top was red, and then it turned white. So now when he would use the power of, let's say, a Fire Flower or a Starman, he would go back to that color scheme that he had in the first few episodes. Peach, on the other hand, her outfit would go from, basically what it was, which was, I guess, kind of pinkish. Well, Peach, or Toadstool, her outfit would go from, what it was, to being almost like an American-like outfit. Red, blue, and, I guess, grayish white or something. And that was only for one episode. That episode was the Trojan Cooper. Now, it kind of did show that she was more, as some people put it, more than a damsel in distress. Because, let's be fair, even though she was always captured in the games, and as critic put it, and as critic said, she was put on the top of his most annoying damsels, or most biggest dumbasses, or basically on his countdown of the dumbasses that needed to be saved. If you will. I'm chasing my dog out of the room here. But basically, Doug Walker, as a nostalgia critic, put her at the top of the list of the dumbasses that always were in distress and needed to be saved. Which I guess, in one's opinion, is a good place to put her. But when you take a look at the cartoon, she really wasn't. I mean, let's just put it this way. Be fair. I'd say 30% of the time she needed to be saved. She was captured and needed to be saved. 70% of the time she was mostly on their side fighting against Koopa. So we can't really say that she always needed saving, because quite honestly, she was always there to help them. Now, besides that, with those exceptions here and there, again, the one complaint people always had about the Mario cartoon was it didn't have a consistency, it didn't have any kind of continuity value. It was mostly aimed towards younger kids, which is understandable, because even my 8-year-old nephew, who wasn't even born when these came out. I mean, I was 10 years old when this came out. My nephew was like an afterthought. Wasn't even thought of, wasn't even considered being thought of, and all that. The same goes with my almost 20-year-old niece. They weren't even considered. They were like an afterthought. It's like no one thought of the existence right then and there. That's basically how young I was when these cartoons came out in '89. And I don't mean anything mean or anything offensive towards my nephew and niece. I'm just pointing out the fact they were not even a thought in the minds of the family when this happened, or when the show came out. So, for someone like my nephew, who was born in 2002, well, not 2002, but 2003, for my nephew who was born in 2003, for him to actually sit down and enjoy this, it shows you exactly where that target age range was. Now you say, well, wait a minute, if he's 8 years old, Brian, shouldn't that make it shouldn't he be watching something like, say, Sonic SatAM, or even Zelda, which is more Y7? Yeah, you would think that, but because he's a Mario fan, he's more used to watching Mario, even though, like I said, some people have pointed out that the episodes, as good as they were, didn't really have much of a consistent basis and were targeted more towards the younger kids. Now, as far as The Legend of Zelda goes, like I said, it was more matured It had more of a continuity and constant basis. And its characters, believe it or not, to me, before Sonic SatAM came out, set the bar for what animated adaptations of video games should be. I mean, here you had Link, of course, like let's say a Sonic, was wisecracking, always like laid back, wisecracking, kind of at times can, let his ego get the best of him kind of deal. Now that's always a staple sometimes when it comes to a character like, say, Sonic and Link. They got to have that kind of, attitude, if you will, that characteristic. Zelda, to me, Princess Zelda, to me, set the bar, set the standard on how a princess, if you will, in a video game, leading female character in a video game, should be portrayed. Because, yes, she does kind of get captured every now and then, but her percentage of capture is far, far less than Toadstool's is. And she's more capable of being on adventures than Toadstool. I mean, she's more, well, not capable, but she's more used to being on adventures than Toadstool. She's used to saving Link's butt, if you will, if need be, or saving others when need be. And again, because of how she was portrayed in this cartoon, despite how you feel about it, to me, she set the standard. She set the bar for what a lead female in a character video game, and whether it's a princess or not, needs to be portrayed as in a cartoon adaptation of that very video game, in my honest opinion. So, she set the standard, but I'll be honest with you, about 4 or 5 years later, Sally broke that standard and she set it even higher. Sally Acorn of the SatAM cartoon set it higher than it's ever been, and in my honest opinion, no one, except for maybe Zelda, in my opinion, when it comes to princesses, has ever come that close to getting to that high standard. I mean, yes, Zelda back in '89 when it came to the cartoon set the standard, but Sally broke that standard and set it even higher. It basically established right from there in '93 and through '95 how a princess, whether they created originally for the show or not, should be portrayed. And the only characters that I know of have come that close have been Zelda, a few of the Sonic females like Blaze and Rouge. Well, Rouge is not a princess, but you get the idea. And some other ones I can't think of right now. But basically they both set the standard, in my opinion, of how princesses in animation adaptations of video games should be portrayed. Now, as far as the live action segments go, the live action segments, well, they were funny at times, they were cool, they had their guest stars. Like I said earlier, just like the shows that were similar to them, like Captain Kangaroo and Bozo and shows like that, they would have stories within, but they would actually sometimes have their own story plots. And just like some of those shows that had come before them, they actually also had guest stars. I mean, you had guest stars like Magic Johnson. You had people portraying legends like Elvis and myths and mythical creatures like Dracula and Frankenstein and Dr. Frankenstein and stuff like that. You have Sergeant Slaughter on there. You'd have Roddy Piper, of course, because of the association with Captain Lou Albano, who played Mario in the live action segments. And you had Cyndi Lauper, and the list just goes on. And they were funny at times and very unique. Sometimes corny, but they were funny. So, overall, the Super Mario Bros. Super Show / Legend of Zelda Super Show was okay, and it's worth checking out. Because right now, currently, it's on Netflix streaming. If you have Netflix and you have Netflix streaming, if I was you, I would definitely give it a look-see and check it out. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for watching this new edition of the Cartoon Flashback. and I will talk to y'all later.